I want to thank Americans for Prosperity. We need you. We need an organization like this to carry that message to every city and every town and by every means, whether it is writing letters to the editor or getting on Facebook or tweeting or whatever it is that's your thing. Spread the word that the American people are alive and listening and paying attention to what's going on in Washington, and we're going to stop it. We're going to stop it next year. When a new Congress is sworn in, just like we saw Bob McDonnell sworn in this year. That's what this is all about, and we have the ability to do it. Will we be able to stop this health care bill? You know, the President of the United States, in his campaign the year before last, said, when we do health care, we're going to invite C-SPAN in. We're going to put it on C-SPAN when we have the negotiations, so you can see whether your representatives and your senators are protecting you or looking out for the special interests. Now they've cut a deal with most of those special interests to try to get this health care monstrosity passed. And C-SPAN, Brian Lamb, the head of C-SPAN, sent a letter to the Congress and said, hey, the president said we should have C-SPAN in the room, and here we are. We're ready to be in the room to televise these negotiations. Will you let us in? No. No siree. But I'll tell you what, the American people are watching anyway. They know what's going on in those back rooms. And if we don't stop it because they insist on doing what the people in poll after poll after poll and in phone call and email and so on to their senators and representatives have said, they don't want this health care bill. If they don't do it, we're going to continue to fight, right? The next place we're going to fight is in the courts, because this bill is unconstitutional. It takes away your civil liberties. It takes away your right to decide whether or not you want to have health insurance, and if you want to have health insurance, what health insurance you want to buy. So we'll fight it there. And if we don't succeed there, we're going to fight, right? We're going to fight in these elections this next year. And we're going to win seat after seat after seat in the House and the Senate as we take back our government. And then, if we don't get enough seats, we're going to stop? No, we're going to continue to fight. In 2012, and what happens in 2012? There's another election for President of the United States. And we're going to elect a president who believes in limited government, in free enterprise, in individual responsibility, in lower taxes and less government regulation, and most importantly of all, and I will tell you this for sure, most importantly of all, cut government spending. I've asked some high school classes when I've met with them how much money the federal government has borrowed and who's going to have to pay it back. You know what? They know they're going to have to pay it back. They've gotten that message. But when I ask them, how much is $1 trillion, they don't know. So I said, let me give you a starting point. If you had a stack of $1,000 bills just 4 inches high, you'd have $1 million. Well, they're pretty impressed with that. None of them have ever seen a $1,000 bill, and just stack just 4 inches high, freshly printed, tightly packed $1,000 bills, and you have $1 million. So I said, how high would that stack of $1,000 bills have to be to equal $1 trillion, which is what we spent on the economic stimulus package that has cost jobs in America, not created jobs? $1 trillion. About what the president says this health care bill will cost. $1.2 trillion. The budget deficit for the year we're operating in right now, never before, until last year, have we had a budget deficit of anything near that magnitude. So what's $1 trillion, I said to them. I said, how high would that stack have to be of $1,000 bills? One young lady raised her hand. She said, about 12 inches. Another said, no, it'd be a lot more than that. It'd be about 20 feet. I said, well, for those of you who are going to pass your SOLs, you know that $1 billion is 1,000 times a million. And $1 trillion is 1,000 times a million, or 1,000 times 1,000 times. or a million. If you do 1,000 times 1,000, that's 1,000,000 times $1 million. So that stack of $1,000 bills that's 4 inches high for $1 million would have to be 4 million inches high for $1 trillion. Over the next 8 years, this administration is going to add $8 to $10 trillion to our national debt on the backs of those same high school students and children that are not yet even born today. So that's what's at stake, and that's the most serious problem we have, is out of control government spending. It's why on the first day of this Congress, I introduced House Joint Resolution number 1. The Democrats weren't paying attention, so the clerk gave me bill number 1. I was very happy to have that, being in the minority. House Joint Resolution number 1, a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution. We came within one vote of passing a balanced budget amendment in the Congress during the contract with America. One vote short in the Senate. It passed in the House, one vote short in the Senate. If that one vote had been there and the states had ratified it like I think they would, we'd be having a very different discussion today about this issue of cutting government spending, because it would force the members of Congress and the President to set their priorities and have that great debate like we have in Virginia, where they are required to balance their budget each and every year. So we're going to fight for that. We're going to fight for that in this Congress and in the next Congress. And when we elect the next President of the United States, and a Congress that gets it and wants to have that kind of fiscal responsibility, we're going to enshrine that in the United States Constitution. How are we going to get there? We're going to get there with your help. We need you from now until the next election to contact everybody you know here in Virginia and elsewhere across this country and tell them how important this election is. We have great hope, great expectations, but we have, most of all, great determination. Will you join me? Will you join Americans for Prosperity? Will you roll up your sleeves and get to work? Thank you very much. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless the United States.